You have been wondering, why are people moving to Denmark these days, right? I mean, it's common for people to move to the US, UK, Australia, Canada, especially for a typical Indian, someone like me. But then why are so many people choosing to move to Denmark? After all, what do we know about this country? In this video, I will be happy to share with you 6 reasons with which you can decide whether Denmark is the right country for you or not. Hear it from someone like me who has been in this country, in Denmark, for 17 years. I was born and raised in New Delhi, where I grew up, did my schooling, my university, and I always held the desire, the wish to go abroad and study. And so I did. I landed up in Denmark 17 years ago as a master's student. I came here on a scholarship from the European Commission to pursue a master's in media, communication and cultural studies. And I did a joint degree between University of London, Institute of Education in the UK, and Roskilde University in Denmark. And ever since I graduated, I have wanted to live in Denmark, and so many years have passed. So this is my story, 17 years of insights right here on this channel to share with you. So what are the top 6 reasons by which you can assess if Denmark is the right country for you? For starters, it's meaningful to say that Denmark is a Scandinavian country in the very north of Europe. Yes, because it's in the north of Europe, but naturally it is a cold country. So reason number 1 that you should consider whether you should move to Denmark or not is weather, right? Denmark is a cold country. For 8 to 9 months of the year, it is dark, gray, dreary, without the sun, very windy, rainy. And if you are someone who cares for warm climates, loves the sun, then Denmark perhaps will not be the right place for you. If you are, on the other hand, someone like me who was happy to get a break from the punishing heat of Delhi, where it is extremely hot in the summer and the heat just goes on and the humidity is too much, and the cold of the winter is also too much, then probably you will be happy for a country like Denmark. Yes, I would want a little bit more sun, but the climate of Denmark has never bothered me. So it was never a challenge for me to want to consider staying here or not. The second reason why you may want to choose Denmark or not as a country for your stay long term is language. Yes, the Danes speak their own language, which is Danish, which is typically the case in Europe, right? European countries like France, Spain, Italy all have their own languages, and the Danes also have their own languages. Has its own language, Danish. But the Danes are also very good at speaking English, which kind of is a little bit of a trap, right? If you want to come to Denmark and if you want to really integrate with the society, be an active participant in the society, then you will have to want to learn the language. But that said, it's not an easy language to learn. We have all tried it, and it takes a lot of effort, true dedication, and many years of practice before you can pronounce the words correctly. Danish is a hard language to speak. Unlike Swedish, where you read it and pronounce it the way you write, in Danish, the written and the pronunciation are 2 very different things. So language is something you will have to want to embrace. If you are open to learning new languages, then yes, you should consider coming to Denmark. Of course, you can get about your life speaking in English. Danes speak very good English. They're very fluent in English, which kind of can create a false sense of security, because you actually don't need Danish to get by in your everyday life. And especially if you're living with international colleagues, international friends, and that's your everyday milieu, then you will never really get a chance to use your Danish unless you go to the supermarket. Now, what typically happens is that the Danes, in order to make you comfortable, they will switch to English, and then even if you start a conversation and they switch to English, you will never really get a chance to sustain a conversation in Danish. Thereby, you again don't get a chance to practice your Danish. So these are the hurdles that you will have to get over. There are ways in which you can pick up the language. For instance, if you listen to the radio every day, if you watch a lot of Danish television, Denmark makes great movies, shows, and you can watch them in the beginning with subtitles. And that's how you learn to hear the sound and get the grasp of how Danish is spoken, how particular words are pronounced. And then slowly and steadily, you get to practice it in your surroundings to build up confidence. If you are open to learning the language, that is such a big hurdle, then yes, Denmark is the right country for you. Otherwise, it might be a tough ride. The third point that you must seriously consider when moving to Denmark or when considering to move to Denmark is how to find work. Now, this is closely tied to point number 2, which is about learning the language. In order to find work here, especially if you started off as a student and then decide to move on and try to enter the job market, you will have to understand that finding work, one of the biggest things that can help you get work is knowing the language. If you don't know the language, then suddenly your opportunities are rather limited, contracted. Fewer number of jobs will be available to you in English, for instance. Yes, there are some English jobs. I won't say a lot of English jobs, a fair amount of English jobs, but there is a tremendous competition around those jobs. So there is no guarantee that you will land those jobs because there are so many takers for those few limited number of jobs in English. So one of the biggest hurdles that people face in order to find work, despite their excellent qualifications, no matter in what field you are qualified in, is the barrier to entry to the job market, which is Danish language. So if you are coming to the country as an expat, you're coming to the country with a job because you have gotten an offer from a multinational, yes, you will start off your life working in English in that multinational, and you will probably surround yourself with other internationals. But in order to be truly succeeding in your profession, and if you want to switch to another company, and if you want to even expand your opportunities professionally, it is a very good idea to learn the language. So if you're not open to learning the language and really do what it takes to find work, which can be challenging, then Denmark will be tough for you. Fourth point. One of the reasons why people are hesitant to live in Denmark long term is because of taxes. And may I say, the very high level of taxes. Denmark is one of the countries worldwide where citizens pay a very high tax percentage from their every month's salary. Right? Denmark has a progressive taxation system like many other countries in the world, where you pay tax based on the level of your income, and it increases progressively. But what is the wacko part is that you invariably pay 37% plus 8, which is 45%. So sometimes you pay 45%, 50%, even 55 to 60% of your tax of your income based on how high your income is. An average Joe, a regular person, is typically paying at least 37% of income tax plus 8% of further tax for labor market contributions. So invariably, even the basic lowest common denominator is paying a tax of 45%. That's something to keep in mind. Now, if you're as a foreigner coming to this country and you're like, yes, I want to earn a high level of income, but I'm really not comfortable paying these high taxes because I want to save a big portion of my income to give it back to my family in my home country, then this might be a very big consideration for you. This might not be the right place for you. On the other hand, if you understand how these taxes are used, you have to understand that Denmark is a welfare society where the state provides for basic human amenities like free education for all. All through school, all through university, education is free. Healthcare. Everybody has access to free healthcare. If you end up in the hospital, if you need an x-ray, if you want to go to the general practitioner, you will be going to get all these benefits without having to take out a single krona from your pocket, right? Because healthcare is covered. The taxes that we pay, the very high level of taxes that we pay, goes into providing these basic amenities. Another example, if you are sending your children to daycare, right? If you have small children and they are going to daycare, daycare is highly affordable in this country. That's because daycare is heavily subsidized. And how is it possible that it is subsidized? That's because all the citizens pooled in and paid very high level of taxes. So taxes are really for a very important purpose. They are well used. And if you live in this country long enough, you will also be able to get benefit out of these taxes. However, if you think, no, I'm here only for 2 years, maybe 3, max 5 years, I'm not really going to get the benefit out of paying all these taxes, then you might feel uncomfortable with this choice, with this arrangement, and then Denmark might not be the right place for you to move to, right? The next topic that you should always have in mind is that unlike India or many other parts of the world, Denmark is a small country, it's a homogeneous country, and it can get lonely here sometimes, or a lot of the times. People try to keep to themselves and they have their own close-knit social circles. So a typical average Joe in Denmark is growing up with their own friends from school or from university, from their high school, and they stick to those set of friends. They are very loyal, they are very committed, and they have this very closely knit social circle of family and friends. And it is very hard for a foreigner, for an international to come and break into these social circles. So one of the things that is very hard in a country like Denmark is to make Danish friends. That does not mean that Danes are not social. They are very social, they are very friendly. Friendly as in they will be very chatty with you at school or at university, but there is no guarantee that they will be asking you over for dinner, right? Because this is just a different way of life. So if you're seeking to make friends in a country like Denmark, it's going to be hard in the beginning, and you just have to accept it. That yes, initially you're moving to a country where you know no one, so loneliness is a given. But if you can accept it and work through it, there are typically things that you can do to get more involved in society around you. For instance, one of the smartest ways to get into Danish society is to join an association. For instance, if you have an interest in football or badminton, it's really smart and a great idea to go and join your local football club or badminton club. If you're interested in art or painting or music, you can go to your local music group or join a local choir. So there are ways in which you can overcome this loneliness and the barrier to entry into a society like Denmark, but the initiative has to be yours. You have to be open, you have to be curious, and you have to be willing to take the initiative to go and engage with people who don't necessarily are from your community, who do things differently, but your willingness to learn and to be open is what will help you in overcoming that loneliness. Talking about loneliness, another thing that typically happens with an international is that you will constantly be making friends with other internationals, right? So every year you will make friends with, let's say, 5 new international people, could be from any parts of the world. And then in a few years, they will start to leave. And then you will go through the cycle of making friends, losing friends, and then building these relationships, and then typically having to let them go. And you will do this over and over and over again. Maybe in your, if you've stayed here 10 years, then you will do it first in your first 1 year, then you will do again in your 3rd year, again in your 5th year, again in your 8th year, and the cycle goes on. So yes, you will have a vast network of great friends across the world, but they might not be close enough for you to really share your feelings and whatever challenges you're going on here and now. So you have to remember that life is not going to be all rosy all the time. It's going to be a lot of fun, but you have to really brace yourself for this facet of life, of loneliness as well. And finally, you have to understand that in Denmark, everybody has to be on their own. Everybody is independent. If I were to compare life with India, where we get a lot of help around the house, everything from cooking to help with cleaning, with gardening, with somebody coming and washing your car, if you have a car, somebody to drive your car, if you're lucky enough. We have a lot of support and a lot of hands to help us around with our everyday life in India, for instance. But that's not going to be the case in Denmark, right? You have to be mentally prepared that when you come to Denmark, you have to embrace the DIY, the do-it-yourself culture, right? Everything from learning how to assemble an IKEA furniture to making your own, doing your own laundry, making your own food, maintaining your own garden. Yes, once in a while you can get a gardener's help, but all kind of help is very expensive. So typically people are self-reliant, are independent, and do their own thing. If this kind of independent life where you're fully self-reliant scares you, intimidates you, then you probably should rethink coming to Denmark, right? And this holds true for other countries like the US, Canada, and other countries as well, where once you leave the comfort of your home and go to a Western country like US, UK, and even true for Denmark, you will have to do a lot of these things on your own. And this should not come as a surprise. So if you are mentally prepared to tackle these 6 basic elements, such as the weather, learning the language, being able to find work through networking, being willing to pay high taxes, embracing loneliness and taking an effort to actively come out of it, and being independent in your everyday life, then yes, Denmark would be a glorious place for you to live in long term. These are the 6 reasons that I had to cross and I had to navigate. And I have learned a lot of ways in 17 years how to navigate this. I'll be happy to share with all these tips and tricks with you in the coming videos. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more information. Remember to subscribe to the channel so that you can be well informed and make an informed decision. Take care. Bye-bye.